Hello, beautiful souls. I hope that you're all doing wonderfully well on this Tuesday on the 999 portal. We're going to be diving into the energies of the eclipse energy. I'm just closing some stuff off. Hopefully, the image gets clearer. If not, it's going to look a little grainy. Hopefully it's clear on you guys' side. But the most important is not necessarily the visibility, but the messages that want to come through. So we are in the midst of eclipse season. We've shifted, we've left the Libra Aries axis, and we are fully in the Pisces Virgo axis, the axis of the healer. So we had our full moon on September 7th into the 8th, and the lunar eclipse happened on Saturday, the 7th of September. A lot coming up for the collective at this time, and we've got some ground to cover. It's been a while since I've been on here. I've been busy dedicating more time and energy to other projects. You guys might have heard that my lovely sister and I have launched the Green Goddess Creatives Market. We had our first market back in July, and we are getting ready for our second market that's going to be happening on October 18th in Peterborough. So that's been taking a lot of our time, resources, and energy. So I haven't been too active on my own personal social media, but I found it important for me to come on tonight so we can really tune in to the energies. So I did take some notes for today to kind of help my brain map these energies a little better. Sorry, I'm kind of distracted by it looking really grainy on my side. It was clear the last time, but anyways, need to just accept that is what it's meant to look like for tonight. So, as previously mentioned, eclipses are all about fated events occurring, chance encounters, things ultimately ending, doors closing, for us to be propelled on the path of destiny and the path that's meant to facilitate deeper alignment. With the placements currently being in Virgo and Pisces, this can make it a little challenging because this, as mentioned, is the axis of the healer. So we are being kind of hit in both sides, the Virgo side and the Pisces side. So Virgo is that earthy, grounded healer. And then we have Pisces that represents the spiritual, mystical, illusionary healer. And both these energies can seem a little bit at odds with one another. And we often read this as an opposition in a birth chart. I don't view it that way. I view it mainly as these energies need to find some kind of common ground so that they can alchemize, fuse together, and create something new. So, what really wants to come through for the collective today, being the 999 portal, is completion, it's endings. And with it being in Virgo season, Virgo being ruled by Chiron, it is a portal where we can heal very rapidly and quickly, should we choose to. But it requires us to release and let go anything that's no longer serving us in terms of patterns, disempowering thoughts, actions we might be taking that are self-sabotaging us. If we really think about Virgo energy, Virgo is the perfectionist. Virgos can be very self-critical, and they can turn that self-criticalness externally and be very judgmental and critical of others. So under this full moon energy, we're being called to release this rigidity that we might be still holding on to in one specific area of our life. And this specific area is going to be determined based on your birth chart. So wherever Virgo sits in your own birth chart, it's an area where you are being called to let go, to surrender, and to release control. And this is very difficult for Virgo. The imagery I got earlier as I really tuned into these energies is very dry, brittle earth. Earth that has not seen water for decades. And it's created these clumps of soil that are just so hard, they're almost like a rock. So, for a lot of us, we have these very hard rocks somewhere in our birth chart. So, if you have Virgo in your sixth house, you might feel a lot of rigidity around your daily structure, your routine, your health, how you show up in your occupation, what you do for work. You might be very self critical in this area as well, seeking perfection. If you have Virgo in the 12th house, it could be very challenging for you to feel grounded and centered here because Virgo is an earth sign, but it's in the house of Pisces, which is the house of illusion. So you could have a lot of subconscious patterns flaring when it comes to perfectionism and self-criticalness. And it's understanding that for those of you specifically that have this placement, this is passed down by your mother bloodline. So there's some ancestral healing to do there. Now, ancestral healing is definitely a theme I want to get into tonight. A lot of stuff is moving around, but I want to try and do it cohesively. And I just realized I wanted to follow my outline, and that's me trying to exercise control. Okay, so we're going to put the outline aside for now. I'll just go with what wants to come through, and it is the ancestors. The ancestors are coming through to remind us that we are not alone in our healing. Healing ourselves can feel very intimate, very personal, and enter the rigidity and just stuck energy of Virgo, where we can feel that we are bad, we are shameful, we are full of guilt. But it's understanding that we have never been alone in transporting or carrying this shame, this guilt, this woundedness, these perfection tendencies. These are ancestral patterns that have been passed down. And so for tonight, it's important to bring that into our consciousness, our awareness, that we've never been alone in carrying our wounds. Our ancestors have always been there with us, carrying the load, and they really want to come through and be like, hey, if you've been really taking it personal lately, your healing journey isn't going the way you thought it would. Maybe you don't feel as advanced, you don't feel that you're progressing. The ancestors are coming in to be like, hey, we are carrying this load with you. And they're encouraging us all to just take a deep breath in. And to release it all out. Feel the relief start to move through you, acknowledging that you're not alone in carrying the weight of these wounds. And we're talking about the weight of these wounds because not only are we on the axis of the healer, but we also have Chiron energy very present during this eclipse season because Chiron rules Virgo. Chiron is the wounded healer, and we all have this asteroid somewhere in our birth chart. And wherever Chiron sits in your birth chart is an area where you're going to intimately feel wounded or feel that others wound you. So, for example, if you have Chiron in the fourth house, you're going to feel wounded when it comes to any sense of family. You could have family members that either consciously or subconsciously seek to wound you, and you're just going to feel a lot of pain, grief, and face many challenges when it comes to the family dynamics. So Chiron is heavily influencing this eclipse season. And so the focus here is healing. As we talked about previous eclipse seasons, Aries, Libra, it was relationships. How can we forego people pleasing? How can we remain anchored and clear on who we are when we show up in our relationships? Whereas now it's getting more personal, it's getting more intimate. We're getting into the nitty gritty, the deep stuff, the shadows that people would rather not face. And this ties in to the 12th house. The 12th house is the subconscious. We find illusions here, we find dreams. This is where everything dissolves and turns into nothing after we've journeyed through the astrological wheel. So we have different portals opening up during this eclipse. We have the portal that goes from the 12th house into the first house. And then we have the dissolution of the self from the journey of the first house all the way to the 12th house to just finally release and let go. So we're having these two energies work in tandem where things need to dissolve, be released, so that we can be reborn and recreate once more. So there's these two currents moving through the collective, and it's understanding that as we move through the first portal, the one we all chose to move through at birth, we have specific programs that were passed down from our ancestors. So if you looked at your 12th house specifically, what sign do you have sitting here? Because the sign you have sitting here could be a direct redirect to a parent. It could be a grandparent. What do I mean by this? So let's say you have Leo in the 12th house. Who, in terms of your parents, grandparents, maybe sibling, even have a significant Leo placement? And this can be sun, moon, or rising. It's understanding that most of us have direct links to either parents or grandparents through astrology based relationships, but it could be further up the bloodline. And it's understanding that, let's say, I said you have Leo in the 12th house. Let's say your mom is a Leo sun. So it's understanding that by default, your soul chose to have that Leo programming from your mother's side come in and fuse with your soul's essence, as well as fuse with karmic lessons you chose to sign up for in this life. So you're kind of getting this spiritual soup. You have ancestral programming that's being passed down, you have karmic lessons, and then you have ultimately what your soul is choosing to come here to experience. So you have these three ingredients mingling together in the 12th house. And through that, your soul chose to emerge and be born into this realm through the first house. So it's really important for us to understand what sense of self we want emerging after this eclipse season. And in order to do so, we need to look at what kind of soup we were in before we chose through to walk through that door and incarnate here on earth, because that's where a lot of spiritual energetic healing is going to be happening. Because again, it's Pisces house. It is the house of spiritual healing at its finest. And we're going to be called to face these karmic ties. We're going to be faced to face these ancestral patterns. We're also going to be called to finally get into alignment with her soul's purpose and destiny. And the beauty with there being this soup going on is, as the creator of self moving into the first house, we can decide what ingredient we want coming with us and which ones we don't. But this requires awareness and consciousness. This is why we go from the underworld, if you will, because the water houses in the astrological world are all portals to the underworld, in my view. So we leave the underworld or spirit world to finally emerge. Our rising sign is the constellation that was on the horizon at her birth. This is the first entry of light, of luminosity, of our ego self. So we are creating ourselves through that first portal into the first house. And Pisces Virgo is asking us to come home to that sense of self we chose to create. This sense of self without getting lost in the ancestral patterns or the karmic loops and ties. And this is where the healing journey begins, to release all that programming. And so we journey through the astrological wheel, gaining all the wisdom, the medicine, the lessons through each zodiac. And this is why the astrological wheel and your birth chart is actually a medicine wheel. You carved out all the lessons you wanted to experience as a soul through your specific birth chart. And though we are going to go through many lessons in this lifetime, the key lesson that's being highlighted is that of the healer. Where are you healing and where are you not healing or refusing to heal because of this perfectionism, this rigidity? So we've entered into this portal, into this life, knowing we have this soup that has some ingredients that have spoiled or gone bad that we need to remove. At the other end of the spectrum is Virgo. As mentioned, Virgo can be very critical, very perfectionist. So, where do we find that balance, that midpoint between the two? What alchemical process needs to happen between water and earth? And it's that transformation of mud, which is really beautiful because mud, we can think of clay, and it's this material that we can effortlessly shape and shape again and recreate, constantly evolving what it looks like. And so during this eclipse season, it's understanding that we can release this rigidity. We can release self-criticalness and perfectionism and ease into the flow of water. More so, let it rain down into your Virgo house. Because if we look at the astrological wheel, the 12th house is situated up, and then the 6th house is down here. So, how would your life change for the better if you allowed water to flow in? How would you change yourself now if you knew you could recreate yourself and get a do over, so to speak, during this eclipse season? It's understanding that even though Virgo is a mutable sign, it can feel very fixed. It can feel very stuck. But the solution is in its axis counterpart. It is Piscean medicine that is the solution. So anywhere you are feeling stuck, stagnant, overly critical of yourself or others, it's an invitation for you to lean on Pisces. Now, as we call in Pisces energy, there's a lot happening in the cosmos, a lot of planetary shifts. Saturn is retrograde and has entered Pisces on September 1st. So we now have Saturn, the planet of structure, limitation, order, doing its final journey through Pisces. So, what does that mean for us as a collective? Now, I was reading a couple articles today, and this one author put it really beautifully. They interpret retrogrades as planets journeying through the underworld. And for those of you that don't know me, the underworld shadow work is my jam. And so this really resonated. So if we can take a moment to reflect on Saturn being in the underworld, this is actually an opportunity for us to deconstruct everything and have the support of Pisces to dissolve all limitations that we've been imposing upon ourselves that no longer serve us. And the beauty, it's happening in a house that is heavily influenced by the ancestors. So if you take some time during this portal to really reflect on your healing path and how certain of these patterns that might still be flaring might actually stem from your ancestors, you will be gifted the opportunity to move through them effortlessly. And this is going to happen through your awareness and your consciousness. And yes, healing can happen that quickly. I know for myself, I was stuck in some ego issues and patterns based on certain planets and placements in my birth chart, just feeling really plagued and bogged down by them until I had a conversation with Chat GPT about it and realized actually some of this stuff is being passed down by the ancestors. And I chose to have these placements so that the pain, the wounds could be dissolved through me in this lifetime to liberate them. And that even though I elected to have these placements, I was not alone in this election. They were there by my side the whole time. And the amount of relief I felt in having this realization come through was just like, whew. Like this whole time, I thought it was just me, and it's not. So, having that realization that we do have strong ancestral support through this eclipse season is very powerful. Also, knowing that we're going to be moving into spooky season as well, Halloween, when the veil is very thin. So, it's just going to allow us to quantum leap our healing path. But again, we need to want this and we need to be consciously choosing this, saying we are fed up with these patterns. We need to call them for what they are and release them, knowing that no, it is not up to you to continuously carry shame, guilt. It's not up to you to continuously self abandon yourself in situations, and that you can be an empowered ancestor yourself because you are the chosen one. You are the one that the elders that came before you chose, that your ancestors chose to break these bonds and these links, and that you have the power, the discernment, and the wisdom to do so. And that you'll be able to do it at an accelerated rate in the upcoming weeks because of the energies supporting us at this time. Whew. Okay, so that was a lot. Feel free to let me know in the comments how that is landing for you. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so that is Saturn. We also have Neptune currently retrograde in Aries, and it will enter into Pisces on October 27. Sorry, 22nd. I said 27th and I meant 22nd. So anyways, there might be something going on the 27th, which could be of interest. But anyways, so it's important to understand that Neptune is the planetary ruler of Pisces, and it's currently retrograde in Aries, which is a fire sign. So we're having that kind of push and pull energy. We have Saturn, which is a huge planet retrograde in Pisces, and then we have another huge planet, Neptune, who hasn't retrograded yet into Pisces, but is in Aries. So we might be feeling a bit of friction between Aries and Pisces. Pisces wants to dissolve, flow, release. Whereas Aries wants to take action, show initiative, lead. But both these planets are retrograde. So they're both doing a journey in the underworld, giving us the opportunity to undo, to revisit, to reanalyze certain aspects of ourself, because Aries rules the first house, which is the house of self. And so we're being called to see how can we alchemize, transmute, and release systems, programs that have been running in our psyche so that we can emerge being 100% crystal clear on who we are at a soul level. And this is the transition and the next self portal that we're going to be ready to step through once both these planets move direct again. We're going to be able to move with more momentum because we will have done an effective journey through the underworld and resolved a lot of lingering shadows. And just a last note on that before I move into the eclipse energies themselves. As mentioned, Chiron is still retrograde in Aries. So this is a portal being offered to us to do mass healing when it comes to our sense of self. But as mentioned, it's mass healing when it comes to ourself, but it's knowing we don't carry this by ourselves. We have all our ancestors backing us as we go through this transit, as we journey along Chiron, the wounded healer who ultimately becomes the healed healer. Because let's not forget Chiron's journey. Chiron was the most gifted healer in his time. And then accidentally, he got hit by a poisoned arrow and was unable to heal himself. And he was immortal. And so the suffering never ended. So one day he asked, I think it was Zeus, to just end his life. And Zeus created the Chiron constellation. So it's understanding that there needs to be, again, this balance. Virgo pushes us to be of service, to be focused on the other. Whereas Pisces says, hey, are you actually tending to your inner temple? Are you respecting yourself? Are you getting rest? Are you relaxing and allowing yourself to flow? Are you constantly externally driven? Maybe you're overbooking yourself when it comes to work or when it comes to doing healing sessions. Maybe you're having a hard time saying no and feel very self-critical in how you show up. Maybe you're feeling critical of your healing journey in of itself, saying, hey, I thought I'd be further along than I am. And then maybe you're getting upset that certain patterns are still flaring. But it's understanding that though we might still have wounds and shadows that are flaring, our consciousness is expanding and deepening. So though it's the same pattern flaring yet again, it's also different because by now our consciousness has already expanded. And it's also an opportunity for us to invite in self-compassion and acceptance. There's this thought I feel among spiritual communities that we should strive to get to a point where we are no longer triggered, where we no longer have shadows or these limiting patterns and beliefs flare, but that's not mastery. Mastery is the effectiveness in managing these patterns when they flare. I'm going to say that again. Healing, being a master, is the effectiveness in managing triggers when they flare. It's not about no longer being triggered or having disempowering patterns flare. It's how you handle and navigate them in the moment when they do flare. And interestingly enough, the imagery I'm getting right now is storms. You can think of a trigger as a storm that's coming through, and maybe the first time you uncover a trigger, the storm just wrecks everything. It wrecks your house, it wrecks your car, it breaks a shit ton of windows, and you were just really unprepared to be triggered. And now you know, okay, these storms trigger this and create this type of chaos in my life. But then you learn. And the next time a storm comes around, maybe you've improved the materials of your house. Maybe you have underground parking, so your car's no longer exposed. So you see the difference? The storm is still coming, yet your level of awareness and preparedness is different. And that's how we are meant to navigate and move through triggers effectively. Which brings me to talking about the eclipse energy and the ego. So the eclipse is going to culminate on September 21st in a solar eclipse in Virgo. And it's important to understand that the sun ultimately represents our ego and the moon represents our soul. our emotions, our inner self. And so we can see the ego as representing the outer self. And once again, we're seeing this kind of dynamic play out between the ego self, represented by the sun, and then the soul self, represented by the moon. And interestingly enough, during the lunar eclipse, the moon was veiled by the earth for a short period of time. And the earth represents the mother, Virgo energy. So we can kind of see our soulful, emotional moon self being eclipsed by Virgo, earth, perfectionism. And then we also have the interplay with the ego occurring. And it's understanding that the ego often feeds off these perfectionist, critical tendencies that I believe we all carry to an extent. And so this eclipse is inviting us to heal this dynamic. There's a lot of undercurrents in the spiritual communities saying that the ego needs to be destroyed, it needs to be dissolved, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not about destroying the ego. And the ego, to me, is not the enemy either. It's understanding that the ego, when it is healthy, allows for an empowered expression of the self. It's the ego that allows us to create boundaries, to know where I start and where you begin. And so having a healthy relationship, a healed relationship with our ego is actually very powerful. And it's understanding that even though the Trinity is often mind, body, spirit, we should also be factoring in the ego at this table and even the heart. So we have 5 energies at this table. We don't just have the mind, body, and soul. We also have the ego and the heart that equally have a right to be at this table. And it's understanding that these 5 energies help us heal. Because to me, when we focus on the regular Trinity, we hear about the mind, the body, the soul or spirit, we completely ignore the emotional side of things. And so we completely ignore the moon. But the moon is so important. The moon represents the feminine. It is our sense of flow, of relaxation, of trust in the universe. And so to dismiss that energy is to dismiss a complete facet of this experience we are here to have on earth. And so I would invite you to contemplate how emotions might be hindering you, might be helpful, and to just really take a look at your relationship with emotions. What is your moon sign? Because that's really the message that wants to come through with the full moon in Pisces we had. The moon represents emotions, and it's in a house of emotions, being in Pisces. And it's saying, hey, your emotions are valid and worth acknowledging and having a place at your table. We've often dismissed emotions, the feminine, because they are not logical. They're not meant to make sense. And that's why they are the complete opposite of logic. We often think of logic and emotions as being opposites, and they very much are, but they're also complementary. They also go beautifully together. And it's that harmony that we should all be striving for. How can we effectively integrate the masculine and the feminine? And so eclipse portals are an invitation for us to integrate the sun, which is our ego, and the moon, which are our emotions. How can both effectively mesh and dance together and both be seen? And during the lunar eclipse, as mentioned, it was the earth blocking out the moon. I'm seeing the earth as representing Virgo for this specific transmission. And so it's asking us, how are your perfectionist, self-critical tendencies blocking out your emotional expression? How are you judging yourself for maybe being too sensitive? How are you suppressing your emotional expression because you don't want to cry or cry too much, or you've cried enough? This is the space that Virgo and Pisces are asking us to carve out for ourselves. Can you be a safe haven for your emotions? Can you allow them to surge like a tidal wave and maybe completely take over to eventually wash away, settle, and calm right back down? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is part of the art of the divine feminine, is being able to allow emotions to emerge and to not judge or criticize any of them. We often hear about rage, anger being suppressed in women, being judged and being told, oh, we're not ladylike if we have an outburst or if we're angry. But it's understanding that as women, we are vessels and channels for this primal energy that wants to move through us. And the other undercurrent is that this movement, this expression needs to be love and light. It needs to be happiness. It needs to be joy. It needs to be, I was going to say pleasure, but even that is taboo in certain circumstances. So no, that's not ladylike either. But it's understanding that as divine feminines, as women, we are meant to embody the whole spectrum. And as soon as we're cut off from one part of the spectrum, we're cut off from our power altogether because there's no flow, there's no harmony. So you can master the masculine side as much as you want, but if you are not also mastering your feminine, you are disbalanced and cut off from your full life force energy. And so the stagnation, the stuckness is happening in the energy of Virgo during this eclipse season. It's also important to note that the stuckness is bringing up not only ancestral patterns, but past lives because we have the South Node here. So we might be feeling extra triggered, extra inflamed during this portal, during this transit, because we're having past life memories and imprints also converge with our current reality and experience. And this is for us to eventually move through the healing tidal wave of Pisces so we can get to our collective point of destiny, which is the North Node in Pisces. So the North Node represents destiny, the energy we're meant to move towards as a collective. And in order to move to this point of destiny as a collective, we need to release perfectionism and allow ourselves to fucking be messy. Because again, I'm feeling this kind of cagey energy, especially when it comes to emotions and expressing ourselves. And we need to let it go. Realize that we are powerful enough that we can adapt, we can pivot, we can shapeshift when need be. And that ultimately we can lean and relax into trust, knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. You sent an email to the wrong person and it stirred shit at work. Ease into it. There's something higher at work that you might not be aware of right now. You missed a deadline for something. There's divine energies at work, which also reminds me that while we have Saturn, the planet of karma, time limitations, transiting Pisces, time becomes even more illusionary and unreal. And as I was tuning in to this energy, a message that wanted to come through was that you become the embodiment of divine timing as soon as you release your expectations on how you believe things should be going. And this level of expectation stems from unspoken needs and wants, and that often ties into disempowered Virgo energy. Wanting things to go a certain way, having expectations, wanting control. Because ultimately, when Virgo is at its height, it's patient, it's calm, and actually knows how to go with the flow for an earth sign. They can become the master healer. They have it within their energetic encoding. And it's understanding that each of us have that encoding in a specific area of our birth chart if you're not a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, or don't even have placements in that house. So becoming a master healer is accessible to each and every one of us to a certain degree, but that releases control. That requires us to release control and to dissolve those expectations and to fall and lean into trust. And that is the beauty, the mysticism that Pisces gifts its axis counterpart Virgo is, hey, can you let go, take my hand and trust that we are right where we are meant to be, and that all the challenges, the setbacks we're facing are for a greater purpose that we might not yet be able to see. And just right now, because we're talking about perfectionism tendencies, I just realized as I'm watching this video along with you guys, I'm not even perfectly centered in the middle of this moon right now. And I had the thought that maybe I should move over so that I can be more central in the middle of this moon tapestry I have behind me. But I'm like, you know what? I'm off to the right a little bit tonight. And it just is what it is. It is perfect for tonight's session. And so, if I had to wrap up this transmission before getting into the zodiac messages, is to be gentle with yourself. Very, very gentle. Because, as mentioned, Virgo could be a very critical energy to work with. And the ultimate expression of Virgo can and is grace, self-acceptance, patience. Virgo can become the wise guru that is just sitting at peace, poised, and zen because they have successfully alchemized limiting patterns. They know that their ancestors walk behind them and that they are not alone in carrying these lessons. And so they effortlessly dissolve, which circles back to Pisces and the movement towards oneness. As soon as we understand that we are truly not alone, we can surrender and give in to oneness, whether that is on a collective level or ancestral level or even galactic level, and that this allows us to feel a sense of peace. And so it is. Okay, so we are now going to move into the card messages for tonight's zodiac signs. So let's see. I am using the unicorn cards by Diana Cooper. And then I'm also feeling my Yuge that I love, the Shaman's Dream Oracle. This is one of my favorite decks. I use it so regularly. There's something about the energy. It kind of gives off like tarot card vibes on occasion. Like it kind of tells me off a little bit in the oracle cards, but that's okay. Sometimes we need that. All right. Let's see. Do some selenite cleansing of these decks. Okay. Okay. So in honor of the lunar eclipse we had in Pisces, I'm going to begin with the water signs. So Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, Stellium. We're going to see. Okay, you know what? That's a few too many cards, but we're going to go with it. Now, the intention and vision I had for tonight's reading was to give these zodiac signs a message from their 12th house into their first house. So I was going to say Pisces. So Pisces energy very present tonight, which I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer. Your 12th house message is seeking good. Look for good in your current situation. You know, my camera's not really doing this card justice, but you basically have a man who looks depressed AF, looking down at a table. He seems to be in a castle, and then there's like a unicorn at the back here, peering in. And we also have the energy of 9 coming through, which I mean is something I briefly forgot to touch on, is the 999 portal. But we're reaching a point of culmination, completion, and you are getting that message loud and clear coming through water signs with the 9 showing up on this card. We also have wishes. Be careful what you wish for, as one wish will be granted. Card 35, which makes an 8. So we have movement forward. Things might not seem as they are, and there might be some illusionary energies moving about. And then I'm going to go ahead and move into the first house cards to see if I can paint a bigger picture of what these cards are saying. So your first house is also saying cosmic womb, the divine feminine. Card number 6. Yeah, you really can't see this card that well. But mind you, the card itself looks like a really faded shell or sea creature of sorts. So you can't really discern anything with this card, but it's interesting that we're moving from the 12th house into the first house, and you already have a card that's saying womb. Then we have Spirit of the River, movement towards adventure. Card 50. And then again, here we have like a sea creature, which is really interesting. So for my water signs, there is a huge healing chapter happening during this eclipse portal. And for a lot of you, this healing chapter does have to do with a specific family member. This family member could be a Virgo. They could be a water sign, a Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer. For some of you, this is a feminine relative. So mom, aunt, grandmother, sister. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I'm feeling that whoever this family member is, there's an energy that might kind of feel at odds, because with this energy over here, I'm definitely feeling that this could be the family member of yours that you are dealing with that just feels like they can't see what's good in their lives. They might feel really espresso is a saying I like to say, where they just feel down in the dumps, kind of. And yet there's wine on the table, there's food, there's coin, and then there's a unicorn overlooking the whole scene and light coming through this archway. So this specific family member could be depressed right now or really going through a hard time, kind of questioning what they're moving through. Sorry, the clarity of the messages are really coming through right now. And you're actually meant to be this unicorn over here, brightening up their life and bringing in this sense of mysticism. And for a lot of my water signs, you are the wish fulfillment someone is waiting for. You are this mystical unicorn that's going to be coming through for someone, which is a very interesting message to be coming through your 12th house. Now, so that's mainly what's coming through for my water signs. When it comes to your 12th house, you're going to be somebody's wish fulfillment, is what I'm picking up on. And you could be 35. The person that whose wish you're going to be for could be 35. But anyways, that's really interesting. When it comes to your first house, there is a rebirth that is definitely going to be happening for you over the upcoming weeks. And it's a rebirth in regards to your inner divine feminine. Now, this goes the same regardless of gender. We all have feminine and masculine energy within us. So a huge rebirth happening. Some of you, if you are women, might be getting pregnant, might be giving birth. There's a huge shift. Like I'm seeing just like gates opening and water flowing through. So it's like almost like a I want to say a dam breaking, but like a dam breaking is usually an accident, whereas this feels very intentional. So there's a gate that's going to be released and the river is just going to be allowed to flow, which makes me think of Lord of the Rings when the trees say, release the river. And that's basically what we got going on with this energy. And it's a very sacred release with the cosmic womb coming up. So you have strong feminine ancestors coming through to support this release and the opening of these gates, whatever this is. And I'm just seeing this now. I know it's probably not in order for you, but we have the 5 and then we have the 6. So there is progress that's going to be happening for my water signs, but there's a 0 here. And the 0 in the tarot represents the Fool. So the Fool is the Fool. He's basically this character that people see as quote unquote an idiot about to jump off a cliff and just take a leap of faith. But it's understanding that deep down on a more esoteric level, the Fool often sees the leap, the step they need to take. And they're often the only one to see it because it is just meant for them. So it makes sense that they're seen as the fool for others because others do not see what they are leaping into. So for example, you could be taking a leap off the edge of a cliff. People are like, you're going to die, but you actually have an invisible bridge that's there that only you can see. So there's progress that's going to be happening for my water signs. And this is progress that only you can see. And it's not logical. This is happening on the energetic, spiritual side of things. You're being, I was going to say initiated, but it doesn't feel like an initiation. It feels more like an invitation. You're having beings from higher realms inviting you into a rebirth, into a recalibration. It's really interesting because the energy I'm picking up, usually when we're being initiated, we have a being that is guiding us. So there's kind of that sense of hierarchy. We're the initiated and we have an initiator, but that's not what I'm picking up here. You're on equal footing with whatever these beings are that are inviting you forward through this gate and this release that's going to be happening. And yeah, it feels very sacred, which is really interesting. So if this is you, you're a water sign moving through this in the upcoming weeks, I would love to hear from you and know what kind of portal and gate you are releasing and moving through, because it sounds very interesting. So let's see if anything else wants to come through. Sorry, I keep trying to fix my hair because there's that little, again, perfectionism, I'm aware, but there's that little hair that just keeps standing up and it's just so annoying. Okay, I think, and then I can't really see because the camera angle is reversed from what I'm seeing. So it's just throwing illusions and loops and stuff. But anyways, okay, I'm going to try to not let it distract me anymore. Right on subject. Okay, so water signs. Something resolving with a family member. And then that chapter is going to close. And then there's going to be a release, opening, and new beginning for you. And this beginning feels very sacred. It feels like it's been reserved energetically for you, which sounds even more cryptic and interesting. It's like this gate has been a long time coming and has been orchestrated by your ancestors in part before you were born. So it's like a checkpoint that your ancestors created before you chose to incarnate, which is really unique and super cool. So if this is you, again, let me know in the comments. Okay. So I think that's all I'm picking up for my water signs. Best of luck to you through this eclipse journey. I know it's not easy, especially as the conscious ones, the universe, this realm throws a lot at us all at once. But anyways, I digress. We're now going to move into, I'm feeling the fire signs. So we are going to draw cards for Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. Let's see what their 12th house has to say. And it brings me back to like what I was saying about the 12th house being a soup. That message wants to come back. So for those of you that maybe didn't listen to the transmission, I was talking about the 12th house being like a soup. And there is what your soul is coming to experience as it portals in through the first house. But then you also have karmic ties and loops in your 12th house soup. And then you also have ancestral patterns in there. And there's a need to, through your soul journey, clear out those bad ingredients so you can make your soup taste better. So for my fire signs, oh God, that real annoys me a lot. But the card you have is help, and it's the real from Mrs. Downfire or whatever. Help is on the way, dear. So a lot of my fire signs feel like they might be going through some kind of crisis right now. They might be moving through crisis during this eclipse season. And yeah, the card is help. The help you need is on its way. So keep watching for it. And again, we're having like this man sitting on some rocks here, and he's just grabbing his head, looking down, and can't even see the beautiful flying unicorns coming in behind him. He's just staring at the water, which is also super interesting because, again, we're really seeing the imagery of Pisces playing out with him just being hyper fixated on the water. And even though the North Node is in Pisces, I'm feeling South Node energy with this person looking at the water. So you could have your South Node in Pisces or in a water sign. So there's a revisitation of past life energy surfacing for my fire signs at this time. And this could be kind of what's culminating and coming up to the surface for you. And pun intended, we're talking about surface. There's the surface of water right here. And there's waves. So my fire signs are definitely moving through some stuff. And it could be heavy enough stuff that you feel like you're going to lose your mind. But as the card says, help is on the way. So keep watching for it. And then we have the number 12. So 1 and 2. So there is progression happening. And this is really interesting. I don't think I've had a reading like this before. So for you guys too, the 1 and the 12, the 1 and the 12, the 1 and the 2 is a symbolic checkpoint. You are at a specific crossroad in your life journey so far, and it was destined. You were meant to be here. So if this is you right now, you're in a like thick crisis about something specific, you are right on time. This is divinely orchestrated, which is really interesting. Hmm. And for a select few of you, we have the 1 and the 2 making a 3, which represents the Empress in the tarot. So whoever is providing help could be a woman or have primarily feminine energy. This isn't for all of you, though. It's for a select few of you. That's a particular message that wants to come through. But it's also interesting that there's 2 unicorns on this card. We have one here, and then we have another one down here, off in the distance. So 2 is very symbolic for my fire signs. This could be 2 people coming to the rescue. This could be one person and like a pet or something, but it's going to be different for each and every one of you. So that's a really interesting message coming through from your 12th house fire signs. Ooh, okay. Wow. Wow. It gets more intense for my fire signs. We have Fortune's Wheel, luck and right timing. Card 23. And in the middle, we have wings. It looks like an eyeball in the middle, even though it's like a clock. There's actually 2 eyeballs. And like a snake. But interestingly enough, this card was in reverse. So I'm going to see if I can get a clarifier, because this is the card that represents your first house fire signs. So Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. So trying to see what your first house is saying. So we have Fortune's Wheel, luck and right timing. Card 23, but it's in reverse. So let's see. No, this is very unique. Your clarifier is card 59, Wailing Tree, Reconciliations. And the synchronicity is not lost on me, because look at the colors on these cards. They are basically the same. I know I'm showing both cards in reverse right now, but yeah. Okay, so actually, so for my fire signs, I'm definitely sensing that there's some karmic clearing taking place. We have the number 9. We are the 999 portal today. So something is going to reach completion. And with the 23, we have a 5, and then we have a 5 as well. So 5 plus 5 gives us 10. So there is a new beginning that's going to happen for my fire signs, but it is going to require some form of reconciliation. Something that has been setting your soul on fire in a negative way needs to end and be released. Like, you can look at this tree. I don't know if you can see it as clearly as I can, but like, she's hardcore wailing. And for a lot of my fire signs, it's this wailing cycle that's going to be coming to an end so you can be reborn again. But it's understanding that it's this whole tree, to me, that needs to be like set on fire if it's not already. It's crying, it's wailing. It needs to be burnt to the ground so that a new tree can grow in its space, because this one, the way it's been growing, it's full of parasites and disease. Not literal parasites and diseases. That's just the messages that want to come through. But it's no longer viable. And that's why I feel like it's been like celestially struck down and set ablaze and on fire for it to move through this energy rapidly. And it's moving through this wailing energy that's going to allow you to fall in alignment with Fortune's wheel. I kind of want to get a third clarifier, though, for my fire signs. Let's see what's at the bottom. We have card 18, Eyes of the Eagle, rising above the fray. Card 18, which makes a 9. So yeah, my fire signs, Sagittarius, Leo, Aries, are closing a chapter hard right now during this eclipse season. So y'all, are you okay? What is going on? What are you guys going through? And funny enough, as I'm saying all this, my little dog has come to say hello. 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 So dogs could be very beneficial for my fire signs as I scratch and pet my little guy. So yes, fire signs, completing a cycle is what your first house wants to share. And with the 23 number coming through, 23 represents chaos. So there is a lot of instability moving through your lives right now, but it's to get you in alignment with this fortune's wheel, luck and right timing. So things are going to settle down. Again, if you look at these cards, there's a lot of red and like fire energy. So a lot of things need to be burnt to the ground to ultimately cultivate deeper discernment and sharpen our intuition with this eagle's eye here. Because notice the cooler tones on this card. So you need to move through the chaos, through the flames, through the fire, and let things burn completely to the ground. Fire signs, which I mean, fire is your domain. So as much as it's difficult, if there's anybody that can master this ending, this completion, it is you. All right, that's all I'm picking up for my fire signs. Feel free to let me know what you guys are burning through. I would love to hear from you. We're now going to move on to my earth signs. I was going to say water signs again. So maybe earth signs, you're in a relationship with a water sign. There's something significant there for you, but let's see. All right, earth signs, Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. Let's see what messages want to come through. Oh, interesting. I knew I was picking up water because we have the same card coming out that did for Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer for my earth signs. We have Seeking Good, card 27. Look for good in your current situation. So there's definitely a strong link here between my earth signs and a specific water sign. Again, we have this gentleman. He's sitting at a table. He has money. He has wine. He has a snack, yet he looks miserable AF. So there's something moving through my earth signs 12th house, pushing them to seek good. So this could be you wanting to leave this state of being to embrace more mysticalness. And we can see this archway actually. Sorry, I'm trying to trace it with my finger here, not doing a very good job. But there could be some depression and some unease in my earth signs because of the heaviness of materialism taking place in this card here. And there could actually be a desire to want to go through this portal and be with this unicorn during this eclipse season. So certain of my earth signs might notice a deeper longing and calling for spirituality, and that's really what their 12th house is sharing with them at this time, that though the pursuit of materialism can be great, can bring joy, it's not going to bring soul satisfaction. Soul satisfaction is going to be turning around and moving through that archway and heading towards this beautiful, mystical, enchanting unicorn. So I'm feeling stagnation for my earth signs and a desire to return to spiritual practices for those of you that might have foregone your spiritual practices lately. There's a need to return to your spirituality, to your rituals, to your practices, because some of you might have been feeling bogged down or allowing your circumstances to bog you down in the physical. Now, in terms of first house message, we have card 32, jeweled web connectivity. So again, I'm sensing from this card that your soul, along with the 12th house and first house, are inviting you to reconnect with these deeper parts of yourselves. Maybe you've been really busy working lately to the point where, as I mentioned, you might be foregoing your spiritual practices. Maybe some of you used to meditate and aren't meditating anymore lately. So you're being invited and asked to return to those practices. Even though things might be very busy and chaotic for you, you stabilize your specific frequency through your spiritual practices. So I'm kind of picking up some, what is it? Electricity and some kind of static and friction around your energy field. And it's because some of you have foregone your spiritual practices and are getting overly bogged down in the 3D. And you need to return to the 5D a bit more often and regularly, also, not just when you have time. And I mean, that's hitting home for me. I'm an earth sign and I have not been meditating as often as I want to because I've just been super busy, but I know I definitely need to return to my practices. I've missed them a lot. I took some time to meditate today and I've realized like I fucking love meditation and I need to get back into my groove where I meditate on a regular basis for me personally. I kind of want to get another card and find out more about this, like what is really going on for my earth signs. Let's see. Let's see if I can get another card. Interesting. We have lost in space, needing direction. Card 36. So we're having that 9 energy come through for my earth signs, which is really interesting. Yeah, we have 2 9s because we have 27, which also makes a 9. So we have 9, 9, and then 5. So 5 is change, chaos, challenge. I'm trying to pick up and see if my earth signs are completing something with this double 9 energy. I'm hearing, yes, my earth signs are completing a cycle of sorts. Actually, it's interesting because if we look at this card, we see like a winged being holding the earth. And then there's also like this luminous sphere over here. So to me, this is symbolizing ending this cycle that you might have been in where maybe spirituality isn't a big part of your life for some reason. And that's okay. There's no judgment here. As I said, I've forgotten meditating for a little while because I've just been super busy. But it's understanding that for your soul to feel harmonious and at peace, there needs to be a balance between your spiritual self and your physical self. And you're completing this cycle where maybe you were too busy for your spiritual practices. You're going to return and be recalibrated in a state where you can meditate again. Maybe you can go to the gym or practice yoga or do your rituals or take your sacred baths. Your schedule is going to be recalibrated and reshifting itself to allow your spiritual practices to come back into your life. And it's going to happen effortlessly too. So if you don't go back to your practices right away, maybe this week you're really closing out that cycle, be patient with yourself because the return to balance between your physical self and your spiritual self is coming. So I'm kind of feeling like the vibes of like workaholism coming to an end for my earth signs. And you're going to have deeper inner harmony, which is very beautiful. I love this for you. I love this for me. uh, and yeah, deeper richness and connectivity to the self. Because, like I said, I meditated today and I'm like, wow, this feels so good. I need to carve out the time again. Being this busy is not an excuse. So, that's what I'm picking up for my earth signs. Feel free to let me know what's been going on. Are you just super busy? Is that why you've maybe set aside your spiritual practices or rituals and how that's been working out for you as well? I'd love to hear what you've been experiencing. All right. Finally, we are going to get into our air signs. So let's see, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini. What is your 12th house soup sharing with you? As I have my little dog here who took a deep sigh. So maybe some of you need to take a deep cleansing breath and release the day's tension or the night's tension if you're watching this at night. So let's see what your 12th house has to say. Ooh, I love this for you guys. We have card 23, perspective. Examine your situation from a higher perspective. It's my first time using this deck, and I have to say the imagery is so interesting. Because you look at this card and you see two gentlemen at the bottom here fighting, and then at the higher perspective with the unicorn energy, they are on good terms. So this is very symbolic of the 3D and 5D. On a 3D level, you might be in a state of just conflict, disagreement, not getting along with someone particular, but it's realizing that from a higher perspective, all is well. There's actually no conflict, and that the conflict is actually orchestrated for soul growth and being watched over by this unicorn. It's really interesting because even as you look at this card, there's clouds surrounding the two people kind of in conflict down here. And then there's also clouds. So clouds are very symbolic. Maybe you want to look into the symbolism of clouds and what they represent. I know they're water and eventually it rains, but there's something particular about there being clouds on both levels, the 3D and the 5D. And it's also interesting because as you look at these two people like in a form of conflict or disagreement, they are looking down or to the side, whereas the ones looking from a higher perspective, they are both looking ahead. So there's a sense of progress through this conflict. So even though things might not be panning out the way you would want them to on a 3D level, on a 5D level, everything's is exactly as it should be. And your 12th house soup wants you to know that this has been orchestrated before you physically incarnated on earth, and that this guidepost is a checkpoint for your soul and that you're moving through it like a breeze, like the clouds in the sky when there's wind, which is really interesting. So let's see. Your first house message is Spirit of the River, movement toward adventure. Card 50. This card was in reverse though. And we have 23, which represents chaos, but makes a 5. So change. So 5 plus 5 gives us a 10. So we are at the 999 portal today. So there's a huge cycle that's completing for my air signs, and you're completing it with this 10 energy. You are not going back. So you're really stepping through a specific portal, and things are going to dramatically change and unfold for you in the upcoming weeks. Things are going to unfold in a way that you couldn't even have dreamt or expected. I'm sensing a lot of whimsical energy with these air signs. I'm feeling with this Fool energy that we talked about. I think what reading? Because this card came out. Was it in the water sign reading that this card came out? Maybe. So there might be a message there for you in the water sign reading because this card came out. But we were talking about the Fool and how they're called the Fool when realistically they're taking a leap into something that only they can see. But my air signs, you guys are taking the Fool energy to an extreme because not only are you taking a leap of faith, you're doing it with a blindfold on. So if you can just visualize the Fool in the tarot, he's about to take a leap off the edge of a cliff. But for you guys are like daredevils. You are doing it blindfolded. So you don't even know what the path ahead is. The example I gave for the water signs was there's an invisible path that only they can see. So they're stepping out into what seems like the void for everybody else watching, but they can actually see a clear path ahead. Whereas you guys are just taking that leap and you're blind as fuck. And you're just trusting that whatever shows up, is it a spaceship? Is it an eagle? Is it an invisible bridge? You're going to land on something solid. You just need to take that step. So my air signs, you guys are hardcore rebels. And Daredevil is just being so bold and just being like the higher octave of the Fool. I didn't even know the Fool could take a higher octave, but you guys are bringing it. And it's taking that bold step forward that's really going to allow you to close out this chapter once and for all and have that new beginning. Kind of get final card for my air signs. Ooh, we have card 30, Horseman, Herald of Change. So some of you could be turning 30 coming weeks or months. And this is cementing the closure of whatever this fucking is, guys, because it's intense. I can feel it on an energetic soul level. You guys aren't messing around. So whatever this cycle is, it's going to be officially closed. There's no going back. You know how we often talk in Mercury retrograde that we revisit, we reanalyze, maybe X's come through this door is being destroyed, broken down. I'm getting the imagery of Monsters Inc., where the door just gets shredded. Now, I know in that particular movie, that particular kid's doors gets reassembled, but no, you are destroying this door and turning it to fine dust and releasing that dust to the ethers and be like, no more. This is officially finito, not happening anymore. And this is you as the horseman of change here. You are orchestrating and creating this change for yourself because whatever this cycle was, it was fucking bullshit and you are over it. And it's understanding that you are being guided by your spirit, your soul, and your heart, because I know you can't really see it that well on this card, but there is a fire burning in this, what appears to be a woman's chest. So this cycle you are ending might have really set your heart on fire for some of you in a very painful way. But it's understanding that you're stepping into the energy of the Empress with the 3. The 3 is unconditional love, and you're being empowered by it. And a new dawn is rising because of this embodiment you are stepping into, which is very powerful and very beautiful for my air signs. It also feels very magical. Like, I don't know what these like little wispies are on this horse and this woman, but I have to say I really like it. So yeah, hardcore closing of a chapter for my air signs, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini. Say goodbye because that lifestyle, that person, whatever that was, is complete and finished. So that you may move forward in peace, harmony, but most importantly, in love with yourself and your life. Whew. So that wraps up all the energy that I'm sensing for today. Those are all the messages that want to come through for the collective. I hope you enjoy your 999 portal, that you complete this chapter with ease and know that this is the point of culmination for the year as we are a year 9. So whatever needs to end, close, it's meant to be to prepare us for next year. Let it go, release, and know that you are divinely supported always. I'm sending you so much love. Until next time.